Hello YouTube, Sam here from youtube.com/onlivegamer for the new Boston, and in this tutorial we're going to be working more on the car program. Now I haven't exactly thinked over the titles for these yet, but if this is titled Part 7 for the car program, then the inheritance and more on inheritance are Part 5 and 6. I don't want to confuse you going from Part 4 to Part I don't want to confuse you going from Part 4 to Part 7 when the inheritance ones in between are actually Part 5 and 6. So let's go ahead and overload the constructor for SportsCar. So the default constructor for SportsCar is going to be the same as our car, which is sets the color to red, speed to 0, and the number of doors to 5. Now, what we want to do is override that. So to do this, all you have to do is just type sub new. You don't have to use the overrides keyword. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is just create a constructor, and it will use that instead of the one inherited from the what's called the parent class. So car right here is the parent of sports car. So what do we want to do? Let's go ahead and set the color equal to red. We'll set the let's find doors. Number of doors. It's going to be equal to 2 because most sports cars have 2 doors. And or you could count 3 for the trunk, but we're just going to do 2 to simplify it. So what else do we have in the constructor up here? We have the speed. So we'll set speed equal to 0. So now that we've used this default constructor, it looks like we got. Let's just go ahead and see. We'll just leave speed the way it is because it's automatically set to 0. Because car, when it inherits car, it's got the private int speed, and that's going to start off at nothing or 0. So we'll just go ahead and minimize that. And now let's go ahead and add some more to our sports car class. Now we'll just add a function that will get the power to weight ratio. So how we're going to do this is we are going to use a function. So we'll just type get power to weight ratio, and we'll just go ahead and return something. We'll create our function. So we're going to call it public function get power to weight ratio, and then we will make it of type double. So now what we're going to do is we are going to return something. So we will return, and we're just going to divide the horsepower by the weight. So we'll just convert the horsepower, so C type, and then we'll just type horsepower, and we'll convert that to a double, and then we'll divide that by the weight. So we'll type weight and convert that to a double. So when we divide doubles, we can get a decimal type. So we'll just go ahead and minimize that. So now let's come over here and we'll just add one more button. So we'll bring this down some. We'll make it a little bit bigger, and we will set the text value to power/weight, and then we'll set the name to button get power weight. So we'll go ahead and double click on this, and we will group it with our button click events. So now what we're going to do is we are going to type we're going to call the get power to weight ratio function in our sports car class, or from our sports car object, the default sports car. So we'll come back to form1.vb, and we will show a message box. So message box not showed. And now what we're going to do is we're going to type convert dot to string, and now we're going to call default SportsCar dot, and now we're going to call the weight to the get power to weight ratio. So dot get power to weight ratio, and we'll just put P over W ratio for the title. Okay, so now here we go. Let's take that out of there and put that over here. Okay, so now let's go ahead and run our program and see what happens. But first we need to look at what the horsepower is going to be. So the horsepower by default is going to be equal to, let's come up here, it's going to be equal to 500 since we set it in our form1.vb. So the horsepower is equal to 500. So let's go ahead and run this, and we will click power over weight, and we get 0.5 because 500 divided by 1000 is 0.5. So let's just say we have a 275 horsepower sports car. Go ahead and run this. We can get the power to weight ratio. We get 0.275. So go ahead and add this code if you haven't. And once you're done with that, go ahead and move on to the next tutorial, where we're going to be talking about some other stuff having to do with inheritance, and then we're going to be finishing up the car application, and then we'll be moving on to other topics. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next tutorial.